Hello, everyone. What a day here with the live streams, the time changes, Europe to the US, craziness. Joshua, dude, thank you for coming back on the live stream.
Thank you so much for having me.
Man, no, appreciate it. Yeah, if for everyone listening, there was a time change over in Europe. There wasn't a time change here, but we figured it out. Josh was running around, and we're going to spend 45 minutes here talking about VIDT and what's been going and what's been happening. I'm trying to think. We had you on like almost like maybe was it a year ago?
Honestly, I think it might even have been longer. Even I think it was like I don't even remember COVID being a thing like all the way back. And then I think mid-COVID we did like another live stream, right? We talk about the baseball card and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that. You're right. The Michael Jordan baseball card.
Yeah. Okay, it was yours, right, John?
That was fun.
That was your card.
Yeah. I know it's gone. That was actually a really great learning experience. That was cool.
It was, I think, one of the first like real baseball cards, like physical cards that we shipped to the people, right? It was revolutionary, man.
It was cool. You know, logistically, it was like, wait a minute, how do we make all this stuff work? How do you ship the card with the NFT that they already got? And like, there's a lot of logistics there, but the concept of it was super cool because the NFT you guys made it like spun a little bit and showed the card. Yeah. That was great. I think it sold too in like an hour.
Yeah,
should have charged more for that one, but that's okay.
I think that was the joke that we made like last time as well. We sort of undervalued it quite a bit, but lesson learned. You know, it's live and learn, and we have to keep going. And next time we'll do it better. Yeah. So if you have more cars lying around, let us know.
Sure, I love it. And before we get going, just a disclaimer to everyone, just a reminder. You know, we don't take payment for our live streams. We bring on cool people that have dedicated their careers and lives to crypto. Joshua being one of them. You know, make sure you get there and slam that subscribe button. We've got some fun streams coming up here. I think we got another one tomorrow too. And then Joshua, before you introduce yourself, you know, you said you wanted to do a solid little, like a pretty solid giveaway here. So I want you to kind of explain what everyone can get.
Yeah. So as a little thank you token and appreciation token to our community and the fans of ours that follow us online, we sort of decided to do a giveaway. So the planning of this giveaway is as follows. Whoever tweets the best tweet about us, we're searching 3 best tweets, and we'll share $1,000 of VIDT Datalink tokens among those 3 tweets. And we'll find the best tweets after the live stream, so this evening, and then we'll announce the winners tomorrow, and then get your wallet information, stuff like that, so we can send you the innings. So top 3 tweets, and we'll give you like $300 worth of VIDT.
And what would like be an example of like a top tweet? Like, is this just like like someone can make a meme, someone can make, you know, a GIF, or someone could just have like a dissertation. Like, this is just like anything goes, or what are you looking for here?
I like creativity myself, right? So mindless shilling, that's like so 2017, right? So, I mean, we have some amazing, talented, creative people in our community. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with and surprise us. That's sort of what we're going for.
Okay, so $1,000 in VIDT up for grabs for just best 3 tweets, and you'll decide tomorrow.
There we go.
All right.
Wow, that's cool.
Best tweet. That's what I'm going to put.
Thank you for allowing us to do this. And
yeah, of course, man. No, dude, we've been obviously chatting with you guys for a long time, and you know, we've been following you guys. It's like, you know, like originally when we were talking, it was even like, you know, documentation, and like it was like early NFT before people knew to call that NFT from like a B2B standpoint. And like, always been impressed with like the team and the technology. And like John's got on here, it says, so we had you guys on October 28th, 2020. So literally a year ago.
Yeah.
The price was 34 cents, now 97 cents. Like, just give us like a quick, like 2 minutes, like what are some of the highlights over the last year that like really stick out in your mind?
Oh, wow. We've been through so much, but basically what our approach has been is go through the chain of trust is what we call it. It's where we started with authenticity, we're moving to ownership, and the next step would be sort of integrity of the whole chain itself. And I think highlights would be to sort of go for an approach where we can, for example, sorry, I was a little bit blanking there. So highlight what we moved to like VIDT Datalink. We have integrators now that push the technology for us. We've done the Rolex, the APs, more Rembrandts. We're actually doing the Qcoin game, which is actually really fun. We're kind of proud of that one. Binance listing, amazing. USDT pairing, people love it. They've been asking us for that for a long time. But personally, for me, it's been how we survived the sort of unfortunate way that the LTO merger went. Nothing to those guys. Please don't hate on them. This is not a jab or whatever. So I have to keep telling that people because they get passionate about this stuff. But we've gone through it. We came out even better than before, and we're sort of developing the technology in ways that we couldn't possibly imagine before we even started here, and we're still moving strong. So I think we've ramped up quite a bit of the momentum the last, I think, 2 or 3 months, and this is something that we want to keep developing on. So
very cool.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, no, it has been the market. I mean, not to like, I want to focus on a lot of the positive stuff, but I think it's also good to kind of like debrief from like a tactical like perspective on some of that stuff. What were some of the learnings that you guys took away from the situation, and kind of what happened, and like how are you kind of like adapting and kind of iterating moving forward?
I think it starts with expectation management, and we simply had different visions. That's sort of what happened, right? And then you get to do different approaches. You can try whatever, but in the end, it just didn't work. And sometimes that happens, and it's okay. That's life. Sometimes we learn from it, we move on, and now they're doing well, we're doing well, everybody's happy. So I think expectation management, that's one. And what I personally learned from it is that we're still people, and people have different ideas, which works in a positive setting, and sometimes it can be roadblocks in a different setting. But after all, we learned a lot. We grew stronger as a team. And now we're here talking with you guys, having an awesome time. So
yeah.
So Joshua, you said something pretty big. You said you just threw out Rembrandts. You said Rembrandts. So you just casually said that you tokenized Rembrandts.
Yeah.
I want to know more about that. Tell us how that works.
Yeah. So like vintage art, or what we call from the grote meesters, which is the big painters like Vermeer, Van Gogh, Rembrandt, stuff like that, right? We're doing way more like NFTing way more of those paintings. And I think that is a very interesting luxury art use case that I really like, because it's very easy to understand. It makes it easier for these paintings to be verified of authenticity, but also of ownership. And behind the scenes, we've done quite a bit more paintings than just the one edge that we've done the big cornerstone use case articles about. You've seen the video, right? That was just one of the paintings and edges that we've done then, and we are still pushing more. So I think luxury art, amazing use case. I love it.
So luxury art. So you said authenticity. So is there like a dealer? Is there like someone coming in doing a full verification, and then how does that process all come together to say yes, it's real?
Yeah, so it is actually very difficult for especially the ones that the painters have been dead for quite a while, right? Because we can just ask them. So what happens is that there are specialist companies like Douw's Fine Art that we did the Rembrandt edge with, that sort of have the provenance there. They have like libraries full of books with the provenance of those paintings, and also like the history of them, their families, whatever. It's insane how much information they have. And then from that point on, we can sort of deduct where the paintings have been, up to a point until we know what they look like from the historical writings. And then it's up to the specialist to say, okay, so I declare that this one is real. That is the first part of authenticity verification, right? So we make that into a very easy to understand document with all the information that you need and stuff like that. And then we sort of record or timestamp there saying this is real. And that's the first step in this chain of trust. So it is a very difficult process. Doing it with like painters that are alive is so much easier, because we can simply mark it in a way that makes sense. Yeah.
So there's a human oracle, and they're verifying this, and then what happens? Is there like pictures taken of the painting to prove its authenticity? Is it tied to an NFT? How does that? What's next? How does that work?
Yeah, so it starts with macro photoing. So we sort of take and capture every little detail that could prove that this one is real, and also the back. The back is almost one of the most important ways to describe a painting is real, because there's no visual evidence to be found by standing in front of it, right? The only way to know if it's real is by owning it and having it described in a way that you wouldn't know beforehand. And sort of we captured all that stuff. We make it a document. The specialist timestamps it. This whole process is notarized, so that the notary sort of declares that this process was done by the way we described it. And then the next step would be to make an NFT that is sort of unique in ownership, like we've done the baseball card. And then in the NFT, in the metadata, we can actually tie the timestamp to the document itself. So whenever you have the painting in front of you, right, then you have these documents. You can prove that this document wasn't edited by checking the timestamp and doing a verification of our terminal. The next step will be to sort of make sure, so now you know the document is real, so you can verify the painting with the document. Then the next step would be to sort of check, is this document released by the specialist that I trust? Sure, that's also part of our timestamping service. And then on top of that, you want to know, is this, what has the provenance been? And also, are you the owner? Are you the one actually liable, or like, are you the one that is allowed to sell it to me? And we can use NFTs for that. So the proof of ownership there is done by NFT technology. So everything is coupled together. And we actually described it in our Rolex case together with WorkProof. So they actually timestamp even the online sales page, so that even if you're online, you can verify that it's coupled to the real deal. So we're sort of trying to make sure that no more scamming, no more fraud stuff.
So the physical product comes with the NFT that helps verify it, and then moving forward, everyone that transfers ownership is transferring the physical item and the NFT itself.
Yeah, and every step has to go through specialists that understand the technology and make sure that also the transaction is correct. Because otherwise, you could have a situation where it's not synchronized anymore, right? So you do have the NFT, but not the painting. We don't need that to happen. That's a big no-no. So every transaction has to go through a specialist that understands it and sort of proves that the next step in the provenance has been completed.
Which sounds like a lot amazing. Of steps. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of steps, but it's like at the same time, I mean, what does one of these paintings go for?
Yeah, so like true Rembrandts, the old ones, they go for millions, right? So
yeah, it's like obviously when you have an asset, it's like you're trying to secure that asset. It's like it sounds, that's probably much more expensive than most homes. And think about the process that you go through even just to purchase a home, right? It's like absolute nightmare. Exactly. So
and you can sort of see it as insurance too, right? So sure, it takes time and there's a lot of work in it, but if you're insured that way, that it becomes worth more, more valuable, right? So some of the paintings that we've done actually sold for way more afterwards, because it was so easy for them to display the ownership and the authenticity of it. Yeah, it makes it easier for the next one, right? So the first time is always a lot of work, and after that it becomes easy. So
it's really interesting when you think through like art galleries. They loan out pieces all the time to other galleries, and there's also fractional ownership of artwork too. And so it's really fascinating when you think about just from gallery to gallery, and this moving around the world and just verifying that it's not a fake painting that somehow got swapped out at some point in time. Fascinating, really cool.
I do like it a lot, because basically what we're doing is we're building like a foundation on which trust is built, and then from there we can actually make new use cases that make a lot of sense, right? So tokenization, why would you split a painting that you didn't know for sure was a real one? But now we can, right? So that's kind of cool. Or why would you trade Pokemon cards or shoes, for example, that you don't know for sure are real? So a lot of stuff is built on trust, and we want to make sure that the trust is actually verifiable.
It's interesting talking about the insurance piece, because it's like, I was like, oh, it's much more secure. Like the insurance premium is probably going to go down. And then you're like, well, the value's gone up a lot, so the insurance is probably even more. So it's like, they're damn insurance companies. They always get us no matter what. I mean, you guys are doing this. I mean, I had a cool opportunity to speak with Gary Vee a couple, or probably a month or so ago, and there was a fellow from Christie's on there as well, and they were like did this whole big splash like here, and it's like you guys are like, all right, you guys did this like months and months and months ago, like before, like that and they're obviously none of us have the following that Gary Vee has, but like how are you guys thinking about like getting some of these messages out to the world, with some of the process? And I see, obviously you guys always have a strong community. It's like the questions are in here. But like, how are you guys have that grassroots, like, what are you guys doing around that?
Yeah, this is actually quite a hot topic for us at the moment, because we're right in a transition to be better at this. Basically the business that we've done so far is a lot from our own network, from our partners' networks, marketing on the business side, but we're trying to be more of a educational visionary party in the industry. So we're ramping up there on the marketing efforts and the communication efforts to make sure people actually know us, right? We can do stuff better than others, but if they don't know us, then what is the point, right? What are you doing it for? So
what's the point of a birthday party if you don't invite anyone?
There you go. So that's something that we're definitely working on. And as like you said, our community is amazing. A lot of those guys actually been with us from the start, which is awesome to see. Like the OGs in there. It's a fun thing to witness, right? And I'm sort of proud of it. They saw the rise and fall and the development of it all. So that's really cool. But I think we're trying to partner up more. Teamwork makes the dream work. If we just use those cliche terms, right?
Yeah,
but it is true. It makes sense. So we're working on it. Yeah.
So question, one of the things that stands out to me is that I read even on your site, you say every cloud to every chain approach. And that just screams of you're ready to be interoperable with lots of chains. And I guess tell us more about that and what chains are you working with? What's driving that?
Yeah, so I think the approach sort of that we're going for is it doesn't matter what kind of technology stack you're on, you can use us. And whatever you need and suits the business case the best, we are there for you, right? We can help you. We can sort of provide that for you as a company. And we want to do this because every company operates different, right? So on the deepest level of trust and the business logic that needs to be performed, we need to be able to tie in. We need to be able to hook up to their systems. So that's sort of the every system to every chain approach. Currently, we support quite a few, but our main ones are Ethereum and Binance Smart Chain. But we're always looking at new and hot stuff, right? There's a lot of development going on, and sometimes even too fast for me to follow. So I have a great team of technical guys around me that sort of know better, and they can explain to me what the newest trends are. But we're trying to be up to date. Yeah.
And I even saw Digibyte on there. And
yeah. Of course.
Change. But you also say you do periodic batch anchoring on Bitcoin and Ethereum. What is that? How does that work?
We sort of see it as a way of auditing all the transactions, right? So if you pile up everything on, for example, Binance Smart Chain, which can be arguably less decentral than Bitcoin, then what we do is we audit those batches on Bitcoin and Ethereum, for example, on the bigger ones, even though they are more expensive. So in some use cases, high volume use cases, we couldn't do it one-on-one, simply because it's too expensive for the companies that we work with. So what we do is we do one-on-one on the cheaper chains, and then we batch sort of as an audit procedure on the bigger ones, so that even if something goes wrong, we can always still prove that none of our data has been changed or stolen or whatever, right? It's sort of an extra security layer on top of the operational approach.
Smart.
Yeah, on the super truth machine of Bitcoin. Now it's like 2021, and everyone's like, why aren't you wrapped on Solana? Why aren't you wrapped on Polygon? Why aren't you wrapped on this? Where's your liquidity pool over here? What's going on with this? And it's like, whoa, like here's this whole other aspect of, like user growth that needs to be done that got just thrown in the mix, right? And there's a lot to that. So it's like you're facing an issue, I feel like, that every single DApp is now facing, which is like, when do you decide? Because those are big lifts. People don't realize, like, it's not just, and even if like some of the development, might not be like the hardest thing on the planet, the planning and the UX around it, and then the marketing side of it is also part of that. People don't understand. it's like, how do you decide, how are you guys deciding like, hey, we're going to go after this next chain next? And is it always, well, we're going to go after the biggest one with most users, or are there other options that you're thinking about?
That's a good question, because there's always this balance, right? So from a technical standpoint, we want the best. From a commercial standpoint, it has to make sense, right? I'm kind of a techie myself, so I always want the coolest, the best working, the whatever, right? It has to be amazing, but sometimes it just doesn't have to be. There's other use case aspects that need to be fulfilled first, right? So I think when it comes to like new technology integrations or new adaptations or whatever, right? We need to make sure that it suits the commercial and business needs, because we're a business, or at least our integrators are a business, and we as the awareness team or the board, we're there to make sure that those integrators have the podium, that they can do whatever, and the customers or the users of our technology have the space and limits to do that. So I think making sure that those requirements are met is by far the first priority. And that can sort of cause a little bit of a disruption when it comes to making choices, because sometimes being the best for the business isn't the best for example, the community or marketing or communication, right? Sometimes we have customers that I shouldn't even be able to mention in a slight bit because we're NDA there. And that kind of sucks, because you want to be able to sort of talk about them, but you're simply not allowed to. So we're trying to find the right balance between those two, because otherwise, you lack one side and it doesn't work at all. So it's a good question, but it's also a difficult one to answer, right?
Totally. Yeah, there's a lot there. And then maybe the answer to we got a lot of NDAs is we've got a lot of NDAs.
Yeah. I keep saying that, but then
we got a lot of NDAs. That's the pitch.
I know. It's so I think we're in negotiations, we've learned from this, and we sort of we're building in clauses now that sort of say that we can talk about certain stuff, right? So for example, the soccer club that I was at today, I'm not allowed to name it. So that kind of sucks, because I'm really enthusiastic about this use case that we're working on, or at least the talks that we had, but I'm not allowed to name it. And even like, I know there's Dutch guys listening, they will know which one it is if I even mention something that looks like or has sort of as a hint. So that's difficult. It sucks, but we're working on it.
What city are you in? And did you take a train or fly or drive there?
That's a good question. Actually, I do public transit a lot. Okay. It's a Dutch soccer club. Yeah.
Trying to deduct which team it was.
Right.
So like, who is the typical user? I guess tell us about your customers and your users, and how does that all break down?
It depends on what kind of technology they're using, right? So for the timestamping, B2B is our biggest like customer base, right? So businesses that have high volume of documents that need to be verified for authenticity. For the NFTs, it's more of the upper end customer base, or at least consumers, because usually our NFT cases are quite valuable. Rembrandts, Rolexes, Audemars Piguet. So it's not like average Joe is buying a Rolex every day and wants an NFT of it. So it kind of depends on what use case we're talking about. But the cash cow for the businesses, the integrators, are the timestamping machines. So that's documents, trust in business. And for the NFTs, it's more of the upper class consumers.
And how big do you think the market is for VIDT?
So it depends. It kind of sucks, because I want to answer this question like this is it, right? But it also depends on the industry, right? So the oil and gas, for example, that's where our biggest customers are for the timestamping technology, like MSpec. That market is freaking huge, right? And they're transitioning now to more environmental friendly technologies, and also they have to green energy, otherwise we're gonna get messed up. And also the government is there, so those markets are actually huge, right? But then for the NFTs, if you look at, for example, Rembrandts, there's only so many, and especially the ones being bought in galleries at the moment. I think those markets are smaller, but it's way more understandable, and we can talk about it. There's no NDAs there, so it depends. Yeah.
I get there's a couple of questions, and just for fun, you might be under NDA, but someone had a couple of questions, and they're kind of like, they're fun, and it's like, someone like everyone keeps asking about an Amazon partnership. So I don't know if you can talk about anything at all there, or fan tokens. I don't know if you're working with our buddy Joe Grech over at Chili's or something, or like you're doing your own thing. But that sounds pretty fun and pretty cool. And then someone said anything about a metaverse, which, at first I'd be like, what? But then I'm like, oh, okay, I bet Joshua's got something up his sleeve. So, can you talk about any of those things, or are those just like rumors flying with your community?
The Amazon AWS case is actually, we mentioned it in our light paper. And one of our integrators is a verified partner of Amazon, and their product is being pushed where VIDT technology is a crucial aspect, right? So that's the most I can say for now until we can disclose more. But that's sort of that part of it, right? The fan token, we actually discussed Chili's as well, because the way that they approach it is actually very smart. Sort of just go ahead, join us, and we're going to push it. But sometimes those football or soccer clubs, like the ones we talked to today, they need a different kind of approach, a different kind of engagement. And then talking about fan tokens, for example, that's actually very interesting because we can help them set up their the verification of everyone involved and making decisions together in a sort of like decentral autonomous organization within those soccer clubs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of depends on what their fan club is all about. And then the metaverse, yeah, of course. I mean, verifying if something actually is something for real. How cool would it be if you have your actual Rembrandt painting also in the metaverse on your wall? I mean, that would be so cool. So
I kind of thought maybe you were going.
Yeah. So we're actually sort of advising on a few projects as well, and one of them has to do with AR, and it would be amazing to do the verification in there as well. So we'll see.
That is so interesting, like to take real world verification and bring it into a virtual world, and you can prove that you have ownership of it in the real world.
How cool would it be? It's like the next step, right? It's like and the other way around would be amazing as well. Like, let's say you can actually go to a shop in the metaverse, buy something, and then go to the shop in real life, and you can actually take that item and have it on your real wall as well. I mean, that's the dream, right? So sort of that's. I think that's.
Are you talking with we had realm.art on a couple of weeks ago, and they've got like kind of a cool spin on the metaverse. Do you remember, John? It was like,
yeah,
I think the demo, it was like on his phone, it was like in his living room, and like he was like stepping into this metaverse, and they had just such a cool like planet where you can kind of create all your own. But are you guys talking with those guys at all? I know we're on a live stream, but we definitely should make an intro to you guys.
Yeah,
I'm going to keep you to that because I'd like to learn more about what approach everybody is doing.
Yeah.
I haven't specifically talked with them yet, I think, but I think there's so many like metaverse approaches at the moment. I think what is going to be the biggest crucial aspect of all those metaverses is that we can sort of verify them to be able to connect as one. I think the definition of a metaverse is actually there's only one, or at least there should be a rule in the metaverse that there's one, and all the metaverses sort of connect together. And I think that can only be done if we trust whatever is in there. So being sort of the glue that glues it all together, that would be such a cool spot to be in. And we're working hard to make sure that we can sort of secure that position.
What are since we're talking about the metaverse, what are your thoughts on centralized companies like Facebook changing their name to Meta and going all in on the metaverse versus what we're seeing being built in crypto?
I mean, whenever the start is from the crypto point of view, like the blockchain community, usually their incentives are way more honest, right? They want to build something cool that everybody can enjoy. It has to be free. It has to be open source. I think that is amazing. What I'm kind of afraid of is that Facebook just paves the way, but in a way that works for them, right? So advertisements, they track your whatever you're doing to make sure that you look at the stuff they want you to look at and stuff like that, right? So that's what I'm sort of afraid of, and I hope I'm wrong, but I'm curious to see how honest it's going to be if Facebook were to make the meta of the metaverse. And I hope that we have bigger companies growing from the ranks of ourselves and make sure that there's a different approach. So
It's really interesting when you think about their current business model. It's nearly all ad based. So are you going to pop on your Oculus goggles and be served ads now? Like, well, it's all just kind of like, is that can't be the model?
No,
I just don't see that working.
I mean, I understand. Like, it's just that I'm kind of afraid of it. They actually pushed it that you had to log in with your Facebook account on the Oculus, right? And then they were like, they were made to revert that because it is not allowed, right? But it does show their mindset, right? So we'll just force it in, see what happens, and if it's bad, we'll just take it out. But if it sticks, well, nice for us, right? And I think that approach isn't the right approach to build something so incredible that the metaverse can be. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. It's a sad day if the metaverse is owned by one company.
Yes.
Exactly. Right.
I gotta jump to the other live stream that I've got to go back to back on. But you guys keep going. Hey, if I finish early and you guys are just cranking, I'm coming back.
Joe, we're going to be here for the next 4 hours, so you got plenty of time.
We're not going to stop it now, Joe.
Just keep firing it up. I'm just going to walk around like Sandeep from Polygon when he was at the mall. He was fine. That was epic. But all right, Joshua, I'll be back.
Joe, thank you so much for your time and good luck with your live stream.
All right, brother. You're the best.
I'm sorry for the delay and all the
weird
stuff. So.
Keep entertaining. Talk to you later.
You too. Good luck. Take care.
All right, Joshua, start DJing now. Go for it.
Oh God, no. But I wanted to ask you, right? So, what is your opinion on the metaverse stuff? Because I think it's such a new topic now. There's a reason you're asking.
Yeah. Well. I mean, it's interesting because we were just on LA Blockchain Summit. We just opened it up a couple hours ago, and we were talking about this, and it was like, it's something that we've been talking about a lot internally because we track all this social activity and we keep seeing metaverse mentioned again and again and again. And if I had to draw a graph of the last 3 months, it looks like this, and now it's looking like straight up. Like the mentions are way, way high. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but when we see things like that, where it's not just like, hey, it's a trend, there's a project that happens to be a metaverse project and it's really cool and everyone's talking about it. That's not what's happening. It's more like it's a macro thing. And we're seeing that just in general, people are talking about where the metaverse is going, and the frequency keeps going up. And it's really super interesting because all you got to do is look at the last 2 weeks. Go look at Axie over the last year, I should say, but go look at Decentraland, go look at the Sandbox, go look at, Star Atlas is interesting. There's a bunch of these things that are starting to creep up. Joe mentioned Realm. And then the Facebook thing, the reason I asked that was because it's about validation, right? It's validating the cause, and it's validating these other platforms as they need to grow and do, fundraise, and they've got tokens out there that are appreciating in value. It helps them grow tremendously. So, if you're in the space before a major corporation that's worth hundreds of billions of dollars gets in on it, you're in the right place. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting thing, and that's why I mentioned it, just because the volume of mentions and people talking about it is skyrocketing.
It's awesome to see, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that the funny thing is, if you think about it, we were talking about sort of a version of a metaverse or a digital universe like ages ago, right? Like Second Life literally was a digital version of our world that people could just build themselves. And now there's even like game companies like Roblox that have this model in a certain way. And I think it's awesome to see the transition from those times where we sort of had that approach to have a better way of doing it. And now it's super interesting to see what kind of forms and shapes and whatever is going to happen, because I feel like it's huge, actually. I think this is one of the biggest trends happening at the moment.
There's something interesting that happened. So I was presenting at another a conference for one of the bigger blockchain projects out there a few weeks ago, and they did their entire conference inside of a metaverse. And what was interesting is, we've gone through this thing of like, okay, all conferences are in person, and then we went to all conferences are remote because of COVID, and it's unsafe to have everyone go to conferences. And then I think what's happened is, for the most part, it's really tough to maintain attention for that long in like this singular linear format. But I'll say like what I just experienced was when I was presenting and attending at this conference, what ends up happening is like, as you're in there for hours,
Right.
Sure, people are presenting, but what ends up happening is this other dimension where people are actually forming groups and communities, talking to each other while things are going on. So it would be like what we're doing right now. And I could definitely see us doing these streams inside of a metaverse in the future. Because what will happen is, we've got a chat stream going in here. Well, what if all of them wanted to have sub conversations and talk about what we're talking about and talk about what each other's working on? That's what happens. And so I think that's where it's like, as opposed to like a chat feed being linear, in a metaverse, you end up having, depending on how it's structured, people are genuinely making friends with each other and genuinely like interacting while we're talking. And I think that is just massive. That is just absolutely exciting. We've never had this before. It'd be like being at a conference, but you can constantly talk to the people around you at all times, no matter what is going on. Pretty cool.
I think you're hitting the head of the nail. I think, is that an expression in English as well? But you're right on point. I think is because we're adding extra dimensions of communications, right? It's a new way of interacting with others, and I think that is actually very cool. There's like new ways of doing VR games and stuff like that, right? Where even now you can just have a hangout spot with your friends, right? So even if you're throughout the whole world, you can sort of interact better than just talking or chatting or whatever. You can actually like do stuff together, even if it is in a digital world. It's still interacting together, right? So I think
yeah, and it's exciting too because it's now like mobile first, and whereas one person, I think, call it like Oculus when it first came out, it was like, really, someone's gonna sit and everyone's gonna be wearing these Oculus goggles on, sitting in their living room. They're not leaving their house. They're like you're kidding. No one's gonna do that. So unless you're like really immersed and you're gonna wear that for 30 minutes and you're gonna be dizzy taking it off, like, especially the older ones. It's a lot better now, but still, like, you might have this thing and someone's in AR, someone's in VR, someone's on their phone, someone's driving in their car, talking with voice. Like, there's all these things that I think you're gonna mix, that I think are really like exciting. But the most exciting piece is we have no idea. We have no idea where this goes. We just know that it's a thing.
So much
like,
creativity.
cool.
And I think that's really cool to see. And the cool thing is it enables the people in different countries that didn't have as many opportunities as us in the Western part of the world, right? It opens up new doors for them as well. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of ideas coming from those kinds of cultures and communities and countries as well, which is such a cool way of looking at it, right? It's like globalization, but then we're sort of bringing it back together instead of expanding. Right. And I think that's a very interesting way of looking at things.
Speaking of your comment about Western world, this has come up multiple times. I'm going to pop this up here. So any news about expanding in US market, Joshua, with lots of checkboxes after that?
I mean, so the funny thing is, right, the US market is like, I think 20 times bigger than if you just look at the GDP or the people living in a country. So the US market would be huge for us. It's just that building a remote office actually takes a lot of investment and a lot of work. So working on the US market would be for us with a partner first approach. So we're definitely talking with American companies. We're definitely talking with potential partners in the United States. And I think the problem has been so far with COVID, where a lot of the borders were closed for a while. It was just simply not possible to go in the States for a little bit from Europe. And those kind of hurdles sort of slow down pace so much that we're just reevaluating after COVID, because I think the US market has so many more opportunities for us than the Dutch or the European market. And I think a combination would be amazing. So no concrete plans, but we're definitely looking at sort of ways into the States. So and of course, guys, if you have any ideas, right, or leads, or companies, partners, people, just where to find us in the community.
This is another interesting question here. Whom do you see as competitors and why? I've got a perspective on this one just in general, but I'd love to hear, you don't have to mention names if you don't want, but how do you see competition with what you're doing?
So for me, I see competition. You can see this sort of as on a macro scale, and then we're looking at technology that sort of is timestamping technology, or we can go micro, which means that we're looking at integrators from different industries, and then there are per industry. It kind of depends on how big the industry is, how many competitors we would have. So, for example, in oil and gas, something like Adobe DigiSign could be a competitor because they're sort of timestamping as well, but in a different way. But we kind of see it sort of depends on what you define a competitor as. But I think the biggest one to name would be digital signing, like Adobe. But our use case is different, right? We're doing different documents, different types of use cases, and then there aren't many competitors because it's such a new approach to making authenticity verifiable. But on a macro scale, then yeah, of course. I mean, timestamping is a technology that has gone back to like 1960 or something. So in that sense, there are so many companies doing it. It's just that our approach has been very unique. And in some cases, in some industries, we're ahead of the curve. In some industries, they don't even understand timestamp blockchain yet. So we're still educating there. And then on the other side, we have like NFTs, for example. Well, I think pretty much every NFT provider could be a competitor if you look at it that way.
Sure. Yep.
But I think our best foot forward is, of course, bridging the physical and the digital. And I don't know many parties that do that in the way that we're doing it. So
I was just going to add to what you're saying is I don't think there are competitors in crypto. I think that's an old way to look at business in general. And it's not, like we're changing the business models of the world.
Definitely.
The whole thing's changing and the community's expanding exponentially. And you can't just say, oh, well, there's this one person doing this and they're doing it the only possible way with the only possible model on the only possible blockchain. It's just we're not there anymore, and everything's interoperable and everything's just expanding, I think, beyond what people got used to.
Right.
And so it's fascinating.
It is actually, and I think it's also important to note that competitors aren't a bad thing, right? Usually what I'm saying is that to people that sort of ask me, are you scared that you might have other companies that are better or technology is better? Then I usually say that I think stronger together mentality is gonna overcome everything in especially in the blockchain industry. But it's very important to note that we're still building the pie, if that makes sense. So even if you're sort of challenging or battling for a bigger piece of the pie is still growing. So we just have to make sure that this pie is going to be as big as we can make it with all of us, and then we'll see if there's going to be a battle on the pieces. But I don't think that's the way we have to, like, the mentality. It isn't the mentality that we need right now. For now, it's all
Agreed.
about innovating. It's about disrupting. It's about new ways, new approaches. Just like you said, John. I totally agree with that. So I think competitors has sort of a negative annotation, but in a way that we're looking at it is very, very positive.
Yeah, it's funny too. Like we face this, we get asked this question almost every day. Well, who's your competitors? And
Right.
we know who they are. And the thing is, like, even if our entire user experience was exactly the same and our entire business model was exactly the same, which it's not now, our machine learning, like our natural language processing library that we've got, is not what they've got. And if they did something similar, it wouldn't be what we've got. And so our rules would be different. Ours is extremely accurate and it's going to get way, way better. But there's this whole AI layer around businesses too now that I think people forget about, that's only going to get stronger. And, it's not just, hey, I'm going to design what they've got. You can't. It's a data problem. It's not a user experience thing.
There you go.
Question here that I think is interesting. I don't know anything about this one, but you said VIDT mentioned that layer 2 is in the roadmap. What does that mean in relation to VIDT? Is it a new upgrade? Yeah.
That's a good question. When we're talking about layer 2, we're sort of looking at a new way, or new way is I think the wrong way to say, but sort of as an upgrade to every technology stack to every chain approach. We just want to make sure it's a lot easier, a lot more efficient, a lot more stable for mega volumes of cases and tying different use cases together, because a lot of our work goes into coupling specific use case and technology, making sure it fits, testing it, and going through everything to make sure the use case and business case are correct. And our layer 2 approach will be a solution to make this a lot easier and a lot more scalable for everyone involved. So I think that would be the smallest answer to give to it, right? But we're still in development, we're still testing, we're still researching, we're still going through everything that needs to be done to make this a success. And a lot of it of the researching, of the market investigating is all done by our integrators. And it just takes time. So we're working through it. And I'm very confident that it's going to be something amazing.
Well, speaking of being successful, what I guess question for you, what are which projects excite you the most that are being built using VIDT's technology?
Yeah,
let's pick a few.
I mean, personally, I get a kick from automation and data. So the IoT case and, for example, NSPEC and what they're doing is freaking amazing, because we can scale so much business logic on top of it. Just like you said, right? The data models are everything. So being part of making sure that those data models are correct and unbiased, for example, or unaudited or whatever, that's so cool. So I think that personally for me are the most amazing use cases. And the second one that I really, really like is verifying the certification of people, right? So making sure that the competences that you say you have are actually part of your skill set. Because if we do this for everyone, we're giving more honest chances for everyone that is looking for a specific opportunity, right? And that's such a cool way to sort of promote and celebrate skill sets that people have. So I think I really like that use case as well. But from a business sense, it's high volume case, right? So just a lot of business, a lot of ticks going on. I think that's the commercial, big dream, of course. But for me personally, it's those kind of cases. And also I really like the Rembrandt case or the innovation projects, like with the Rolex, for example. I would love to do a car. The yachts are freaking amazing. So being in Monaco and talking with all the yacht shipyards, the yacht owners, the yacht builders, and working on a way to do a project with them, it's a dream to come true, right? So how many people get to fly there, talk with like amazing and like inspirational people, and then do something with Dubai, for example? Like, who the hell has the chance to hop around the world like that? So I think those cases are a lot of fun as well, as long as it generates business. It has to be productive.
Amazing. There's another one thing, because you said you're working with oil and gas a lot. We're off the California coast here. We just there was a major breach of an oil pipeline off the coast.
Very unfortunate.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
There was oil washing up everywhere. The beaches were closed, and to see just I couldn't help but think, wow, nothing's integrated whatsoever in this system. They thought maybe a ship's anchor hit a pipeline, and as they anchored, but they weren't sure.
Yeah.
And then the oil company was saying they got it, they took care of things quickly, but people were saying, no, you waited half a day. And then there's press conferences, and then they kind of cleaned it up and they kind of didn't. And people were just pointing fingers, and there's nothing verifiable. Terrible. And everyone's got their own little system that they're not sharing because they're all scared they're going to get sued. And no one's being honest.
And I hate it. And in this case, the worst part is it's literally damaging the earth, right? And I think we sort of learned from the past years that there's nothing more valuable, because we're sort of already going to the point of no return, unfortunately. So let's make sure that we sort of make sure that everything goes correctly. And what you're saying is that completely correct. There's no transparency. There's no one saying, okay, guys, we screwed up, but we're owning it. And if you look at it from a foundational standpoint, there's no checks and balances anymore, right? The checks and balances are done by themselves. They audit their own stuff. So even, for example, if the pipe itself was badly built, nobody will know. There's no way to verify what has gone wrong, right? So I think in order to sort of fix this, we have to start from the ground up and start with the absolute lowest point, and then start building trust and transparency from there, because otherwise it's just sort of duct taping the errors, and it wouldn't fix anything,
So I'm going to add saving the world to what VIDT's mission is all about. That's awesome. What are some of the other things that the community can look forward to with VIDT Datalink coming up here?
Well, I think there's so much stuff that I want to talk about. Man, so many amazing things going on right now, but new use cases that I think is very, very interesting. I want to expand on the yacht use case, which we're looking forward to. The light paper has been such a cool way for us to communicate our plans to the future to our community. And I think we're getting better at engaging, we're getting better at structure, we're getting better at communication, and they can look forward to us being even better in the future. So more together, more structure, more transparency. There you go.
And lots of NDAs that you can't talk about.
We're working on that as well. I mean, this sort of is business, and it's one of the bad sides to it. But
so what are some of the ways that, just a couple more questions, because I know we're at an hour, I'll respect your time. But what are some of the ways that someone can get started with VIDT Datalink? What can they do? Where can they go?
It depends on the industry. So we have multiple integrators that can help them set up and make sure that they can start building on it. That's sort of the B2B side. And when it comes to, for example, the NFTs, we do bespoke projects right now. And it would be cool to work towards a way for even consumers and end users to be able to use our technology themselves. But that's something for the future. For now, integrators, they find us through, or like potential customers find us through the integrators, and then they use the products that the integrators have built to get access to our technology and start timestamping.
Okay, cool. And where can the community find you if they want to get in touch? And I guess one last piece, what are your views on the community, and how do you want to involve them in your efforts?
So what we've learned from the Digibyte community, for example, I want to preface the answer with that, because what we discovered is that there's a lot of high valuable leads in that community, like super enthusiastic business owners and actual bosses, if that makes sense, right? Directors and executives. So we want to be able to sort of filter out the community, engage them, activate them on those kinds of leads, right? Make sure that we are a productive place for them there. And then we have to make sure that we become more transparent, better at communicating, making sure that people understand what we're doing, right? Get the word out. I think that's important. We're very specialized in doing our work, but a lot of it goes on the back end, and we have to be better at sifting through the stuff that we can talk about, that people will understand, and also that we can use to engage new people. So talking to us, reaching us through the community, of course. We're doing like a monthly AMA. That's a great way to meet us. And also there's a list of different links, social media stuff in the community itself that you can find us and reach us on. And I want to give a shout out to these people because they're amazing. There's a few like moderators and admins in the community, and they help us so much to sift through all the trends that are happening. They help us engage the right people. They help us find us new opportunities, ways to solve certain problems. So I want to shout out to them. You know who you are. I'm proud of you. And I appreciate so much of the work. And those people help us find the right communication channels as well. So join the community, say stuff, and we're there.
Those community managers are ultra critical, aren't they? They keep it going on our crazy 24-hour scale that we're all on. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and 24/7 it is because of all the time zones and stuff. So.
All right. Well, I will say thank you, Joshua. It's been awesome. Thank you for an hour of your time, and look forward to probably having you again. Is this our second or third time? I don't even know how many times we've talked, but happy to have you on again.
Will be like a third, maybe even fourth. We've done quite a few like in the past, I think.
Yeah.
Or at least it feels like, you know.
Well, it's great to keep in touch and watch how much your VITT is growing. So very exciting.
Thank you so much, John. And I want to congratulate you on the Lunar release. So just wanted to give a good shout out, guys. Whoever is a fan of VIDT, check it out. I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we got so much coming. I can't even explain it. We keep evolving, and our product roadmap just keeps expanding, and there's so many exciting things ahead. So I'm super excited to what's happened.
I'm gonna follow you guys like I've been doing, and I love it. Thank you so much for the opportunity again. I look forward to the next time already. And
Sounds
thank
great.
you for the wait and the hectic start, but it
Oh, that's
was
all
a
great.
fun conversation.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you, Joshua. It's been a great hour here.
Thank you, man. Much appreciated.